We are the world's largest content engagement platform. Yeah, let's get that wrong. We're on 14 million websites all over the world. Our data is used both to power personalization, marketing, advertising products, and welcome to our space. I'm the Vice President of User Experience here. My name is Jim Lane. I'm also the organizer for the event. I'm very happy to announce I have a co-organizer now, Will King, who's been coming here for forever, and actually we hired him not too long ago. He's a product manager as well as a user researcher here at AddThis, and he has graciously agreed to help me run this, which I really appreciate. Thank you. Excellent. So welcome. So let's see. If you haven't already, I'm going to give away 5 copies of Jeff Gotthelp's new UX book this evening at the end. If you have not already thrown your name into that box over there behind Larry's head on the counter, do that, and we'll give away 5 of these a little bit later. So that'll be fun. Okay, a couple questions I always ask. How many people have never been here before? Damn. Okay, cool. Wow, and returning, the regulars, the few, the crowd, not bad. Excellent. Okay, I have a bet going. How many people took the silver line? Wait, keep your hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4? 5?
100% increase.
Yes! 5. It's a new record. Outstanding. Yeah, we really thought there'd be more, but go figure. It's right up the street. Let's see, administrative stuff. If you'd like to tweet, please do so. NoVA UX Meetup is our handle. Take pictures, tweet, what's it called? Periscope, if you like, whatever you like. Go for it. If you need to send it to the internet, it's AT Internet. The AT and the I are capital. Password is AddThis 1595, which is our address. Exclamation mark. The A and the T are capital. Feel free to connect if you'd like. This is my information, jim@addthis.com if you'd like to get a hold of me. And my Twitter handle is JimLaneNova. We've got 2 speakers tonight. I'll introduce them in a second. But first, I haven't done this for a while. I'm going to do it tonight because I'm going to be selfish and announce I have 2 positions I'm hiring for. I'm looking for a creative director and a product designer. So if you're interested, go to our site, addthis.com, go to the careers page, and check those 2 out, or talk to me, or Appy, or Mike, or a couple of us who are here, AddThis people. We'd love to talk to you. So since I've been selfish, I'll do what I used to do, which is anybody here looking to hire somebody? So go ahead, stand up.
Yes, this is Steve with Immigration. I have 2 recs open. One is iOS developer, and the other one is the development team lead for responsive design website.
Cool. Excellent. Who else? Go ahead.
I'm AJ Siegel from ComScore, and I'm hiring a junior UX analyst or intern.
Cool. All right. Junior position. That's cool. Who else? Larry.
Hey everybody, I'm Larry Sink, and I'm with Programming, which is a Bethesda-based startup started by Rob McGovern, who also started CareerBuilder.com. We're building a cross-function, personalized clothes shopping system. Really cool. And we're looking for a principal front-end developer, meaning JavaScript frameworks, as well as HTML and CSS. I left some flyers on the counter, so if you need to find me, I'm still here, or to one of those for more information. Thanks.
Groovy. Who else is hiring?
I'm Danny Blue. I work at Deloitte Digital. I'm that one. We are currently looking for pretty much everything. We are looking for mobile devs. We are looking for front-end developers. We are looking for visual designers, UX designers. Pretty much everything in between. If you do stuff and you're good at it, we can probably hire you for something.
There you go. Pretty much anything. So, good with animals. All right. Anybody else? Is anybody else hiring? Yes. Oh, I think so.
Hi, I'm Sarah Donovan. I'm currently working at the Common App, which is a nonprofit that basically is the middleman between kids in high school and colleges, helping them apply to college. So it's pretty darn cool, and the benefits are better than any profit that I've ever been at. So if you would like to help kids go to college, or you're looking for a front-end developer that is going to have a UX focus, maybe you're somebody who's transitioning to this role, that would be okay. But we would love for you to have actual application design experience as compared to website experience.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Everybody just talk. Raise your hand again. So if you're looking for a job, come talk to one of us. That'd be awesome. Okay, cool. So tonight, NoVA, Levent's company, provided the pizza. So thank you very much. We appreciate it. One of these days, I'm going to get somebody to not do pizza. It's going to be awesome, but it was really good pizza. Thank you. Levent's going to talk about, he's actually really cool prototyping stuff later. Functional prototyping for a mobile app. We can do some really hands-on cool stuff. That's going to come second. First, Danny Blue is going to do, let's see, the what's and the whys of prototyping.
That's pretty
Close enough. Let's call it that. Outstanding. So we're going to switch mics. I'm going to switch presenters here. Bear with us for 1 minute, and then we'll get started. Thanks.
Can everybody hear me okay? Cool. Everybody good? Okay. I'm Danny Blue. As I've already said, I'm a front-end engineer at Deloitte Digital. My Twitter, my GitHub account, look at stuff. Get the shameless plugs out of the way first. I'm also a co-host on a podcast called the Web Platform Podcast. We actually just recorded an episode today. We got to talk to Steve Newcomb from the Famous Framework. We've talked to people from Google, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. So you should subscribe. You should listen. That's all. That's enough of that. Okay. So what I wanted to talk about today is prototyping and what you are trying to get out of a prototype and what a prototype is for. A lot of this stuff comes from both good and bad experiences I have had developing prototypes or what other people think might be prototypes. And that's the important distinction. So to start, a prototype, based on the first definition I could find when I Googled prototype definition, is a first typical or preliminary model of something, especially a machine from which other forms are developed or copied. So the first basic iteration of something, or like a jumping off point is a way that I also like to think about it. So like things are going to be based off of this thing, but it's not going to be that thing specifically. It's not a master mold. It's a concept. So that's good. This slide, I was joking to Jim earlier that I could just stand up with just this slide and then rant for the next 25 to 30 minutes. But this is, if nothing else, this is the most important thing that I have gotten from developing prototypes, is that developing, and this is engineering, UX, design, every aspect of when you're developing a prototype. It is not the same process as developing for production. Please do not think it is. If your boss says like, oh, you can just slap a coat of paint on this and it's going to be good to go for production, no, that's not true, and it will always come back to bite you. I will actually pretty much say always. It will always come back to bite you. So just because when you're developing a prototype, you are aiming for something that's different than when you're trying to develop something for production. And we'll go through a few of those things. So what's the diff? So when you're developing a prototype, a lot of the time you are validating an idea. So whether that is a UX idea, whether it's a design idea, whether that's an engineering idea, that's usually what you're after when you're developing a prototype. Versus production, where you actually need to implement that idea. And ideally, you implement that idea flawlessly. Of course, it always works 100% of the time. But that's what you're aiming for. And that's a big key to this, is that the aim is different. when you're developing a prototype, you're aiming to validate something that you're looking at, where versus production, you have, this is the thing that we're building and it's going to work. The next one is timeline for both, because those two things are very, very different for each. There are some things when you're developing a prototype that you do not have to think about in production. So if you're developing a prototype, you can do things you don't have. You can do things you don't have to do. I think I mixed those up. In production, you have to do things that you don't have to do when you're developing a prototype. And that just all expands the timeline. Your QA cycle is going to be more vigorous. You're going to make sure that whatever you're doing and try to make it extensible so that you don't get boxed into something. The next one is just a very specific picking point of mine, which is code coverage. If I'm developing a prototype, I'm not writing test cases for it. I'm not writing unit tests. For the thing that you're aiming for when you're building a prototype, it doesn't make sense to spend more time doing this than you need when it's going to be something that's like, okay, we proved the point, now we move on, build it for real or go on. Where in production, you of course always have 100% code coverage on everything. And yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with sure. Let's say that's true. Yeah, and so the next one kind of goes with the timeline bit, where you can fake things in a prototype. You cannot fake those things in production. I'm going to use the example of just like a login system for quite a few things. So if you're developing a prototype and your prototype is not some new sort of off system that you created, why put it in the prototype? Why go through the extra effort of finding how the admin screens are going to work and how you're actually going to hook these things up when you can just say like, okay, click this button, and we say, okay, you're logged in, and we just display whatever username somebody put in there. Again, target for what you actually need. Don't waste time. A lot of this is about where you can best spend your time and money developing something. The last one is another kind of engineering nitpicky. No, it's not good. Not it. Integration. So that can mean anything from just how you get something out to a client. So I guess what would have been a better title is how you deliver something. So if you're developing a prototype for a client, for your boss, something like that, sometimes it makes sense. Like, okay, we'll lock it up in a zip file, we'll send it over, and that makes sense. Doesn't work for production. But each of these steps that you go through adds time to how long something's going to take, and that's a very, very big part of it. So the three main kind of targets that I want to aim at is whether you're validating a design or a UX decision. If it's more a technical proof of concept to see if something that you're doing is feasible, reasonable, or even possible. And then prototype to production, or what a lot of people mean by, what they actually mean by this is an alpha version of the product. And this is, vocab is vocab, that is important. A lot of times what people mean by this, and I will show an example. Also, a lot of the examples that I'm going to show, I'm actually going to be using a physical product. It's the Wii U gamepad. So a while ago, Nintendo released a bunch of photos of their prototyping process for the physical Wii U gamepad. But I think that they actually tied very, very closely together to the way that you would do to software development as well, design and development. So if you're validating a UX or design idea, decision, whatever it is, this was the first prototype, one of the first prototypes that Nintendo made for the Wii U gamepad, to decide that, okay, we need to know how it's going to be shaped, what it's going to look like. They just use cardboard, and especially in the one down there on the left. And relative, I actually meant to bring one, and I forgot. It looks pretty damn close to that. So in terms of just the basic shape, we know there's going to be a screen here. We know there's going to be buttons here. That's what they were trying to do here. They're like, okay, roughly how big should it be? Roughly how big? What's the size of the screen? Where should we put the sticks? Some of the things like that. And you can see where even before that, where some of the stuff on the outside was probably some sort of visual rendering. first to lay it out. So this is but the first thing that people have to hold in their hands. So this is validating all of that idea. Okay. And to the target that they were aiming for this point, they didn't need any real technical work to be done because it would have just added effort, time, money, but deliver relatively little value for this step in their prototyping process. And I actually think it's very cool. I like that even for the preliminary for how their software was going to be laid out. And this is one of the things that's very close, is that it's just sketches. It's just sketches they slide into it to be like, okay, this is kind of what it's going to look like. Let's start nailing this down. There are also a lot of tools for UX and visual design. And this is something I know Levent will talk a good bit more about after I'm done. But one of the things that, so like I know at Deloitte Digital, they like this product called Add This, not Add This. That's where we are right now. That's different. It's called Just in Mind. That's not even close. All right. Anyway, it's a drag and drop tool that they use to be like, okay, this is roughly what it's going to look like. It spits out a static HTML site that you can click on, that you can click around. And so when you're trying to convey, in our case, to a client, it's like, okay, this is how we see this looking. That's the target that they're aiming for. So that's what they stick with. You don't involve more things that need to be involved so you don't introduce more risk that needs to be involved. You don't add more time, which again is more money. Technical proof of concept. This one is, again, this is one that I have much more experience with. The technical proof of concepts, I would say right now, don't care what for the most part, you shouldn't care what it looks like. Like your target for your technical proof of concept is to say, does this thing work? Is the idea that we're trying to pitch, again, client, boss, whoever, is it something that actually is feasible? And can we actually do it? And again, for the Wii U gamepad, these are the first technical proofs of concept. This one is just a screen with 2 Wiimotes glued to the sides. But what this allowed them to do is they're like, okay, these are the types of things that we're going to be able to do. These are some of the things we're going to be able to potentially put in our final product. This is kind of how we start to figure out like how this thing is actually going to have to be put together. And again, this one, you can see the resemblance. But if you had to spend, just to validate this point, if you had to spend the entire time making it look exactly like the original designs, it would have taken much, much longer and cost much, much, much more. I mean, and you can see the one down there looks nothing like what the final product ended up being. But so another sticking point, it doesn't matter what it looks like. Don't tell me to move the button to the other side of the screen. It can wait. I promise it can wait. If it's not instrumental to the target that you're trying to hit, it can wait. Potentially move on if you have something else. Because also, potentially you will also be moving through a process where you move through maybe a paper prototype, maybe like a clickable static prototype, like a just-in-mind type of thing. You move on to the technical proof of concept, and then you move on to a full product. And these things can be done in tandem as well. So where you potentially have someone that comes in and says, like, this is what we need, and like, okay, well, we need to prove 2 things. We need to prove the design, we need to prove our vision for what it's going to look like, but we also need to prove that we can actually do it. You can do those things in tandem. You have your UX designers and visual designers be like, okay, we're going to design what this looks like. It's going to be very pretty. It's going to present very well. And then an engineering team can be like, okay, these are the things they're talking about that they actually need to do. Can we actually do these things? So you end up with something that might look something like that, where it's like, okay, that's not pretty. You don't just slap a new coat of paint on that and send it out to market. And you also have the other one, so you get to prove 2. So you prove 2 things. Both teams can potentially work at the same time or close to the same time, and you hit those 2 targets. This one is much trickier. Prototype to production is quite a bit trickier than some others might be. Usually, the main point I want to hit with this one is you probably mean an alpha. So there have been experiences where people would say, like, we're building a prototype. Like, okay, that's great. It's going to take this long. You need this many people. Great, do it. You build a prototype, and then you get a call in 2 weeks and be like, hey, we're having trouble integrating your app into our system. And we're like, oh, that's not what you said. That's, I won't touch myself there. That's different. It's very sweaty up here, I promise. So what they really wanted, they were saying, and this is part of that vocab, they were saying prototype. To communicating to me, it's like, okay, we need to, like, okay, this is gonna be pretty close to what it's gonna be, but this is, we're proving a point. And saying, like, okay, we just need this to work now. That matters. If you, especially because having the same definition of prototype across your project managers, your designers, your engineers is very important, because it could potentially mean different things to different people. And as long as everybody's on the same page with what you're trying to build, create, you're good. Wii U Gamepad, labeled as prototype, is probably pretty close to an alpha. This was the first prototype that they showed to the public. This was the first one that people got. It was at the E3 before they released the Wii U. They showed this, and you can see kind of the difference between this one here and this one here. So this is what the final product looked like. This is the button arrangement. This is how big it is. Things like that. This was the original quote-unquote prototype that they showed. This thing is probably pretty close to final. I almost guarantee you, from here to here, they probably didn't change anything on the inside. They probably didn't be like, okay, we have to get a different type of screen to display here. They moved the buttons and they changed the sticks. So that's the difference. Once you get to this point, it gets much, much more difficult to change things, which is why you ideally want to go through those other steps. Because if you're cutting a thing out of cardboard and you're like, huh, we want to change the shape entirely, it's very easy. If you get to that point and you try to tell your engineers you got to change all of it, they will quit, and it will not be good. So you can see that was a joke, I promise. That's not actually an experience thing. So you can see how close those things actually sit. So you have your basic proof. You have a visual proof of concept, which can be many, many things. It's very, very flexible, easy to change, probably relatively cheap as well, depending. You have a technical proof of concept where you're just proving, so one, you're proving your visual idea. What is this thing that we're trying to build look like? You have another one that says, what is this thing that we're trying to build do? How might we potentially do it? And then you get to this, and then maybe you go through the entire process and you get to this stage where you then say, okay, we can tweak a few things maybe, but so this is more reminiscent of when, like, right, this is the first version of our product that we put out there. And it's perfectly fine to just put things out there. A lot of people will say, fail fast is something that some entrepreneurs and app development people will say. So put it out there, see if it's a good idea, and then bring it back. But you have to realize what it is that you're aiming for. So if you're aiming like, okay, this is the first thing, it's got to go out. There are other things some of these things behind the scenes you have to account for, such as your QA cycle, such as how many people are you going to have on the team, how long is it going to take them, when everything has to work perfectly on X number of browsers or X devices that you decided that it needs to work on. So that's all I've got for right now. Mine was the boring part. Levent has got some really cool things going, but again, that's my Twitter, my GitHub. Please follow and listen to the Web Platform podcast. I have a lot of fun doing it. We get to talk to a bunch of really good people. Does anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Feel free to ignore this completely.
Okay.
I don't want to open this can of worms, but hardware versus an application or software is very different because of the iterative, agile, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. Can you reflect briefly on that? And do you have any words of wisdom or anything?
Okay, so I think what the question is more specifically some of the differences between hardware and software and kind of how that iterative process
You
goes.
could take college courses on that. I'm just wondering if you know for any quick words of wisdom for like how it might be different for doing a software application.
Obvious thing is it's physical. That's not an answer, I promise. But a lot of the same print, it's actually much more similar than you would probably think.
Okay.
Again, it's a lot easier to change something in software than it is to change it in hardware, but because hopefully it's changed, it's pushing some pixels around where it's like, okay, we have to go back to our manufacturer or something like that. But even with the advent of things like 3D printers, like another video game company, Valve, is releasing these things called Steam machines, and they designed a new controller for it. And they bought a really, really high quality 3D printer so they could iterate on this thing several times a day. So even with things like that, hardware and software actually start to get much closer than you would think. But it all again comes down to that target that of what you're trying to achieve. Because if you go too far in software development and be like, okay, we need to change something, like, okay, well, that requires something different. We picked the wrong language for the backend, we picked the wrong framework to try to do this thing. You run into similar problems. More costly with physical stuff if you actually have to like, oh crap, we have to have this thing remade. We have to find a different place to get this part. We ran out of something. You don't run out of pixels, right? You run out of time, energy, effort, and sanity.
Yeah.
But that's really much, and I don't have any experience with physical stuff. I just thought this was a really good illustration of how they can tie close together. And it's much easier to see a thing, which is again one of the reasons that Levent's part would be very cool, because you will get to see an actual thing as it happens.
Do you have any experience in prototyping a service? Because we talk a lot about products, but sometimes we're not always working with the product of building a physical thing, but it's a service process that we have to design.
Yeah. So even then, I think it's also I've a little bit of experience with that. Yes, kind of. I guess you would kind of say borderline, but the one thing that's the same with that again is making so even with the service, you still have a thing that you're creating around the process potentially. I mean, if it's a service, if it's a phone service or something like that I got no clue about. Don't ask me. Ask somebody else. But if you have a service that is based around a website or an app or something like that, you still have to go through. You still have that same kind of process that you have to go through. It's like, okay, so like maybe it just kind of changes your target a little bit. So like, okay, so our service is Uber is a good example. Uber is a service for the most part, right? But they do have the app that it interfaces with. And so when you're prototyping that's when it gets almost more into that alpha stage or like trial versions of things. I think a lot of services will do sometimes, where it'll be like, okay, this is the thing that we want to do. We'll test. We'll try to build it up to a certain point. We'll test markets and things like that. Again, that's getting into more stuff that I don't understand fully the impact of some of that stuff. But when you are building the thing around it, it's like, okay, is this going to be the final? So here's a good. So if you have a service, you have your website around it, that works great. But then you have to have some sort of infrastructure to support that service. If you pick the wrong infrastructure and then you get so far down the line and something changes, it gets much, much harder to change that stuff on the back. So again, testing out these pieces so that you have a better idea. Nobody knows for sure, so you have a better idea where you're trying to go, so that you don't have to go back and waste time, money, sanity, all that good stuff. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I have a question. You said, for prototyping, there's little code coverage.
Yeah.
I work in a setup that I do the prototypes in Bootstrap, in HTML directly.
Mm-hmm.
And then my front-end UI developers take that and add Angular on top.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for me to have little code coverage. I'm making it almost, the click functions and stuff don't work. There's no backend connected to it. But he takes my code and adds his Angular on top. So there is more code coverage. I mean,
Well, so when I say code coverage, I mean things like unit tests and things like that. So absolutely, you can build prototypes and stuff completely in. Like I said, I build prototypes in Angular. I actually think Angular is a really good thing to build prototypes in because you can make things go very fast. But so things like you said, like things aren't hooked up to services. So this one, so you can still fake things. If it's going, like I said, it looks. You provide the like the CSS and the HTML. Like, okay, this is pretty close. We're gonna build everything so that it works, so that it functions fairly
quickly. It's almost as close as the real thing.
Yeah, but it's close, but it's not there.
No, it's not the real thing. It's almost.
Yeah, but it's that.
It's the experience.
Yeah, it's part of how it goes, and this is, and you can just call me a grumpy developer on this part. The last 90% of the work, a lot of the times, will take just as long as the last 10% of the work will take just as long as the first 90%. Because when it comes down to it, it's like, okay, so now we've written this really complicated function. We've written this really complicated method to support a feature that's coming in. We need to make sure it works every time. So we need to make sure we write a unit test for this because we need to make sure that all of our cases are covered. We need to make sure that, like, okay, something changed. We need to make sure we go back and update that unit test. So when I'm talking code coverage, I'm specifically talking about things like that. So documentation.
I didn't know what's the disadvantage or advantage of doing it, for example, in Bootstrap versus, using just-in-time.
Yeah, and again, it absolutely depends on what your target is. Because I've had the bad experience before of we wrote a prototype in Ember, and worked for the prototype, everything was great, and then they were like, it doesn't plug into our services correctly. This thing doesn't work right on this browser, and we're like, yeah, we know it doesn't. Was it supposed to? So that's where that comes in. I know exactly where you're coming from. But like I said, it's that almost versus done. That to me anyway is the and feel free to disagree, but that's my big sticking point with some of that stuff.
For me, it doesn't make sense to make something like in Actioner or something else that is just drag and drop. I might as well make the code because I'm good and fast at it, and then they can just take it and modify.
Yeah.
So
which again is a lot of people do it that way. I've done it that way before. But then, and this is a lot of stuff that's coming from my experience. If like they're like, okay, we want the button to move, I'm like, I don't care for this. I don't care. I don't care that the button is over here instead of over here, where they can not bother me and just move it over themselves. So again, it depends on part of it depends on who you have as well. So like if that's how you guys develop things faster, perfect. Hats off. Just in my personal experience, it hasn't gone that smoothly. So I'm actually very curious, since yours seemingly has. So very, very cool.
Any question?
I was just going to comment, there's a danger of making your prototype look too much like the finished product.
I agree.
There's a huge, huge danger of that. Because what happens is people think, oh, this is pretty much it. Either it's already done, so there's no more reason to give any input, or you don't explore all the weird possibilities that might actually work.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big problem, and I don't know. I mean, it also depends in terms of what this lady was saying is, what skill sets you have in house and how you want to approach it. But I think that is a major issue. Could be a major issue.
No, I absolutely agree because our visual designers will take something like, okay, this is exactly what it's going to look like, and you take it to clients or whatever, and they're like, all right, it's pretty much done, right? Just hook something up to it, and we're good to go. Which is not true. Which is why, especially when it comes to more technical things, because I think the discussion on some of that stuff is a bit easier. If it is, you're like, okay, this is a prototype that we whipped up. If you can say like there's no code in this. This is just pictures. Sometimes it's easier to cut that suspension of disbelief a little bit. You're like, okay, so we know what we're looking at is not real, rather than saying like, okay, so you said like, okay, so this is HTML, CSS. The app itself is built in Angular. Sometimes, again, depending on situation and client and all that stuff, it does like, okay, well, this is sometimes may give the incorrect view that maybe this is more complete than it's actually ready to be. Yeah, it looks great, runs great, it's not ready to go into production.
Well, just to add to that, I mean, I've worked with many, business areas and so on, and they don't understand this 10%, 90% thing. They figure if you've got the nice interface, you've done most of it already, you just need to plug in a few more things. And the truth is, that's only the top, first 10% and the other 90%. So they don't understand, well, what do you mean it's gonna take 4 more months to deliver this product? So that's, I think, another risk that you take.
Yeah. Let's grab somebody in the back.
Could you go back to your definition of the prototype? It seems to lack a little bit. It seemed to sort of imply that you're looking in hindsight. This is the first version.
I will repeat, the first definition I found on Google.
Right. Okay. All right. The one that I like is that a prototype is communicating the core elements of a solution to others. So
That's a much better
it's
definition.
a conversation, which is so it's beyond the ideation stage where you and your group are trying to sort of communicate an idea to you actually need to communicate this to others, and hopefully they can understand and give you some sort of feedback. So I don't know how we would contrast that, my definition, and Google number 1.
No, I actually think that makes a lot of sense. And it's actually one of the reasons I think, like all the questions so far, is one of the reasons I think this topic is particularly interesting, because it tends to be different for everybody. Like there's some core themes, but it tends to be different for everybody. And
everyone is the ideator or context.
The people, yes, the ideator. The people actually doing the work tends to be different.
So it doesn't matter who you're trying to solve for.
It's all, so that's one thing. It also depends on it depends on it all. I keep saying the word target. It really depends on that. So you're working with a team and you have a very strict way. It's like, okay, this is the way that we do prototypes and we do blah 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 blah. And then you go to a client like, this is what we want as a prototype. You have to kind of navigate. That's why the definition actually is very important, because you do have to navigate. It's like, okay, what are they saying, and how do we translate that into what we actually need to do? So like, there's not really there are probably long definitions of prototype, but there are enough different ones that it's interesting to look into. I actually like your definition better.
Let's do one more question.
Okay.
We're all going to hang out afterwards,
Yeah.
so we can ask later. Just
You pick.
Dorian, go back.
Hey.
Hey.
I have a suggestion and also a question. The
Okay.
suggestion is that it might be fun to try and list a couple of the things that the way that you make your prototype depends on, because your answer to almost every question has been, it depends.
That's true.
And so I have a suggestion for a few, which is like the rate of, it's sort of an optimization problem. There's the volatility of how often you think your design is going to change, and then there's how much you think you stand to gain from the information you get from the prototype. Like for example, if you have a big pool of users that you know that you can research from, like Will does all the time, then you have a lot to gain from getting prototypes out really quickly. And then also how useful it is to get things done quickly. Like if you are really trying to get the business of a customer and you know that you'll be able to communicate well if you can get something done in a week and a half, like that's a good reason to do something quickly. Like those are the pool of conditions that you could potentially optimize for. So it might be fun to try and come up with a list of them.
Well, fun. That actually is really. This is the first time that I've given this presentation. If you can't tell by my great slides, but no, that is really good to hear, and it is an interesting problem because you're right. I did say it depends a lot, which is not wrong, but is maybe not the best answer.
And I have quite a legit question now.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about falling in love with a prototype? This happens especially in code because it's the same material. It's not cardboard, it's all code, but it's inappropriate to fall in love with a thing that you made hastily just because it seems to work.
So there have been. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. because you can build something like this works awesome. This for this thing that we're doing, depending on what you're doing. And I don't know if I have a really good just like core example that I can give, but I do know that I've had to come to grips with this thing that I'm making as a prototype. I'm probably going to have to throw away to start again. Like there are maybe some things that I can take from it. So I would say it's less falling in love with an entire like prototype type thing and falling in love with pieces of it. Like, okay, this thing that I did, I like a lot. I think this is actually going to work. I'll tuck this away in my brain somewhere that I know I can extract this out if things move on to that full-blown production scale of how things need to happen. You know, I mean, and sometimes you can just be like, I really like the way I structured this project. I really like this file structure, so I'm gonna take this to the production. I'm gonna take this to the production application, or it could be an Angular directive I wrote. Like this thing works really well. I can probably I add to do to the top of it. I can probably take this thing and then make it better further on. But I think I've come to grips with the most part that, like you said, falling in love with something that you did really fast and then are probably just going to slide away to never be seen again.
Okay. Excellent.
Cool. Thank you guys very, very much.
It's a little warm, yeah. Is it working? So we're going to do some switching here. Things are about to get really hands-on. Pro tip: you may want to have your phones ready for this next section. Just saying. This is it's going to take just a second to get kind of set up. This is a really good time to throw your name into the raffle box if you haven't already. I'm going to be giving away 5 copies of Jeff Gotthelf's Lean UX book. So if you're interested, toss your name in that box, and we'll pick out 5 of them. The rest of these people left here. So we will give us 2 minutes here to get set up, and then we're going to get seriously hands-on. Working now. Pretty good, right?
somebody to record this.
Yep, I actually have a comment. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to draw my napkin. And all I want you to do is kind of hold it there so people can see on the screen what I'm drawing.
Okay, we are just about ready to get started again. All right, we are good to go. For our second talk this evening, I think it's good. Okay. We got a volunteer.
Yeah, no, just 5 minutes.
Hey folks, we're gonna get started again. All right. For our second presentation this evening, Levent Gurses from NoVA is going to do a presentation here on prototyping now in a mobile context. So we're going to get seriously hands-on here with some interesting tech we've got going here. So I'm going to turn it over to him now.
Okay. All right, so it's going to be a little tricky maybe, but if the demo gods are with us, this works 50% of the time. So really does. So we're going to use, so here's the case scenario. You're sitting at a Starbucks and you came up with a great idea for a mobile app. How long is it going to take you from an idea to share your prototype, maybe with your boss or your coworkers, co-founders, or the world, really? So we're gonna, I'm gonna try to imagine ourselves in a coffee shop right now, and all I'm going to use is this pen, couple of napkins, maybe just a little bit color with this Sharpie and the mobile phone. So technically for this prototype, for this mobile prototype, we're not gonna need a laptop. So if you go to a coffee shop like I do, sometimes only with your mobile phone, no wallet, because you can pay with your mobile phone right now. And you have some napkins and you have a friendly barista, you can sit down, jot down some ideas. So I'm going to try to attempt in 10 minutes or so, because I have another couple of things that I'd like to share with you, to create a mobile banking app on napkin. And it's going to be called Back of a Napkin Bank. Okay, I just got confused with another bank. Okay, so we're going to start with the first screen. I'm going to literally draw here a loading screen. So this should go pretty quick once we get started. This is the app screen itself. And here is my loading indicator. And this is going to say loading. And this is going to be our logo. So let's draw our logo. And again.
Oh.
Back of a napkin bank. Okay, so this is the first screen. Let's get going. So the next screen is going to be the sign-in screen.
Flip the napkin over.
Yeah, so you don't have the Starbucks on it.
Oh.
With a line in the middle.
Okay. So here's where I'm going to use the a big orange button. I'm going to call this a sign-in. And just because it's kind of easier to pick later on as an action button in my mockup, I'm going to mark it with the orange. And here is my passcode. And here's my online ID. And here's that logo again. I'm not going to draw it. It's here. Okay. So total, we're going to draw 5 screens. And they should really go real quick by now. So my imagination is we're going to get the loading screen, we're going to sign in, and we're going to land on a page that is listing our accounts. So the top of this page is going to say accounts. I'm going to have a plus sign to add a new account and a hamburger menu here. And here we're going to list 3 accounts right now. So checking with some balance. Savings. Some balance. And then we're going to have an IRA. Maybe 65,000. And then at the bottom, we're going to have some icons. Are you guys able to see it on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So the icons here are going to be basically bill pay, dollar, direct deposit. What else? Transfer.
Wouldn't those things be in the menu?
What's that?
Would those things not be in the menu?
They will be. We're going to draw the menu too, but just for convenience. And here, just the wild icon, apply for mortgage. I'm just going to make a house icon here. Mortgage. All right, this is our third screen. And here, just because, we're going to have this part actionable, sorry, and also these parts actionable. I'm going to enclose them in orange as well. Okay, just for later reference. All right, from here, from this point on, we're going to move to the account detail. So imagine we clicked on one of the accounts, and I'd like to see what's going to be inside the account itself. And real quick here. Okay, at the top, we're going to have the back. We're going to have checking account. And then we're going to have a list of transactions, the latest transactions. So total balance is going to be 50,000. So just repeat it one more time. And then we're going to have a date, name of transaction, books, and dollar amount. So minus $15 for books. On 3/14, we're going to have $50 spent on Starbucks. And on 3/12, we're going to have $100 spent on, what should we spend on?
Shoes.
Shoes. Okay, so the back button will be actionable, the only thing here. And finally, someone mentioned the menu, so let's draw the hamburger menu open. So we have that. And we're going to have accounts. And we're going to have, you know, my accounts, bill pay, transfers, deposit. Then we're going to have help, locations, and then we're going to have rate us, and some lines in between. Okay, so this is going to be our menu. Okay, so we're done with the napkins. I think that's it for now. Thank you. Appreciate it. So now we're going to start an app. Who has used the app called Pop? This one right here. A couple of people. Okay, Pop is prototyping on paper. So let's see if it works. We're going to start a new project. Okay, I already did that. Back of a napkin bank right here. Okay, this plus sign lets you add an image. So let's click that. Take photos. Let's start with my loading screen first. You guys able to see this? Yeah. Next. Looks good to me. Done. Okay, add one more. We're gonna do next the online, the sign-in screen. Okay, again, you can reposition the photo and everything, but this looks good to me. From that point on, we're going to go to the accounts, to the main account screen. Take a photo. Next. Again, reposition it a little bit, looks good. From that, we're going to go to the actual account detail page. Take a photo. Next, looks good. And finally, we're going to have the menu. So let's take a photo of the menu. Okay. And this kind of repositioned looks good to me. Okay. So we're in the app. Again, we're at Starbucks. We only have a mobile phone. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to rename this and call this loading. Done. Okay. And then we're just going to create an action. When you tap once, it adds this little link, right? So I will expand that and link it to our online ID, the sign-in screen, okay? And then if you click on it one more time, you can actually define the transition as well. And I'm going to call it next, okay? And even the gesture, so a tap would be okay, but you can also define left or right swipes. So for now, I'm just going to leave this tap. So deselect it and hit play. So this is your first screen of the app. You can tap it and it goes to your sign-in screen. Okay? Double tap, exit this. Now you're on your sign-in screen. Again, we're going to define a region. This time, only this button. Okay? And we're going to link this to the main accounts page. Okay? And again, the transition here is going to be next because I want it to slide to the left. Okay? And there's no point in testing this. It's going to work. So exactly, I'm going to move to the next one. So this is a little bit the more complicated one because we have the menu and everything. So let's deal with that. So tap once, create this little hamburger menu action, and link it to the menu itself, which is this guy. It's a really ugly menu. But if you tap on it one more time, now I want the menu to slide from left to right. So this is the tricky part. So I'm going to select back for this to see if it works or not. And then go back to the menu page itself. Okay. And define the entire region as slides to the left, and it goes to its original state. So we want the hamburger menu to disappear. So the gesture will be swipe left. The link to will be the main accounts page. And if I select this one more time, the transition should be next. So let's see if this works. Okay, so we're here. Let's play this. Loading, sign in, account. Yep, so the accounts showed up. Swipe it back, we're back to accounts. Okay, so far so good. So let's link these two other buttons as well for the accounts details. Double tap, define a region right here. Doesn't have to be precise. And link it to the account details, which is this guy. And do the same thing here. Link to account detail. Done. And just for the transition, we would like to be next. And for this to be next. Okay. When you get to the account detail, let's define a region on the back. And link it to the account main page. And the transition should be back. Okay, so with that, I think we're done with this prototype. It should be working. Let's test it again. Okay, so it's loading now. Tap once. You see your Johnny Dollar login passcode. You sign in. Here's your accounts, all of your accounts. The menu should be working fine. Checking account takes you to the checking account, right? Back should take you back to accounts. Savings should take you again to the save detail page. And then back should take you back. And if you tap anywhere else, it kind of displays you which areas, which regions are applicable. Okay? So double tap, go back, share this on Twitter, and I'm gonna put NoVA UX. So if you guys, and this should go out for my Twitter ID, which is GursesL. Okay. Post. So now if you go to Twitter, search for NoVA UX, find the link, you can run this prototype on your mobile devices. Now, how it's going to look, I can't guarantee because the project was created for iPhone 6 Plus. It should look something similar to what I showed you, but maybe the format could be a little different. So that kind of concludes the paper prototype demo. Again, it's 10 minutes, Starbucks, a cell phone, a couple of napkins. You can have something a little better than, is it working? Yeah. Okay, good, thanks. You can have something that you can show to your boss, to your client, or collaborators. And that is that. Okay. So. So I'd like to continue my case studies, actually. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention that if you have the web browser open, it syncs automatically. And somebody mentioned that it didn't work for them because this is a cloud-based solution. And for some safety or security reasons, they maybe didn't allow it. Yes, this is all based on the cloud, but if you don't share it, it's all yours, right? Nobody else can see this, technically. Okay. So this is good. But I guess if you have a boss and you show this to them and they're impressed, or a client, they may come back and say, well, this looks really good, but I'm paying a lot, and this is just a Starbucks napkin, maybe something better. And for that, I'd like to show you Sketch. Okay, how many people have used or use Sketch? Okay, it's just one of the tools. I have a couple of slides also to show you kind of a landscape of all tools. I mean, not all, but a couple other tools. There's a lot of prototyping tools, drawing tools, but Sketch is kind of working for us at NoVA because it lets us organize symbols, it lets us organize styles, and we can change things pretty quickly. And so in this next round, I'd like to show you the same kind of concept implemented as a Sketch drawing or set of mockups. So this is the same banking application that we attempted, right? There are a bunch of screens here, but we're not going to do all of them. I just want to show you a couple of tricks real quick. Bad common styles. This shouldn't be here, but anyway, we'll fix it. So the first thing I'd like to show you is that an app that's called Sketch Mirror. Let's see if I can put this back. Huh. So Redactor just quit, so we'll restart it and try one more time. Okay, so.
Are you going to reflect into your phone what's reflected off of the
Yeah, I'll try that. Yeah.
I like it.
So what we're going to try to do is see if I can mirror my desktop, this guy. So when I launch the Mirror app, which I have, but for some reason it's not picking up. Okay. So the demo gods are moving our whips.
Sometimes it does just restart sketch.
Restart sketch. Okay.
Then restart on the mobile phone. Then you have to start.
Yeah, but looks like the reflector app is stuck because I hit other things and I don't see them on the screen now. So let's restart reflector one more time. Try one more time. And if this does work. Okay, at this point I'm going to give up. But what I wanted to show you was when you have sketch, not sketch, but sketch.
Are we gonna get a sneak peek at your Apple Watch app?
Yes, real quick. That's the last one. If we have time, though. Looks like things are happening. Okay. All right, so this little icon here, Mirror. If I have this app called Mirror, and if this thing was working, which it does on my Wi-Fi, lets you see all these screens on your mobile device directly. Okay, so you can swipe them left and right. It works most of the time. Again, not today. We're not going to show that. We're not going to show that. So we're just going to move to something else, something different.
Is it interactive generally?
Yeah, it's pretty interactive.
Like you can push like a button and.
No, you can't push a button.
It's just like
If you can swipe and you can select your screens,
Okay.
and you can do some others.
So like the same kind of like hotspots that you did for the other thing. So you can say when I touch here, go to the screen.
No, you can't define hotspots. So they're all just images. So it takes the entire. So this loading thing, if I select it, this shows up and tiles perfectly on this phone.
Okay.
And then you can swipe that and moves on to the sign-in. So whatever order you define them, that's the order they move to.
Okay. So you can have the flow, but you just have to make sure that you predefine that flow.
Yeah, exactly. If you define the flow in Sketch, then you're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're good to go. And it's only swipe left and right. No taps, no other actions, no flipping screens. All right, so let's start the fun stuff. How many people have used or have heard Framer.js? A couple guys. Okay. So Framer.js is one of the kind of more coding prototyping tools that I'd like to show you today. And you can do JavaScript or CoffeeScript. I do CoffeeScript. Because to me it's easier, but there's some religious wars going on, so I'm not going to go into that. I think. Okay, so this is what the Framer's website looks like. This is the doc section. To me, it's really simple. It's very well documented, and you can't see it right. I'm making it bigger. Okay. So there are a couple elements here. There are layers that you can define. There are actions, there are events, there are regions, there are hotspots. You can do everything that Pop does and like multiply by 100 very precisely, and they're going to look beautiful. Now, there's a trick. Sketch itself has a tool called Sketch Tool, which is a command line tool. Anybody use Sketch Tool? Okay. So Sketch Tool, if invoked from the shell, actually exports all of your sketch images automatically to a folder that you define. And Framer then is able to pick up those changes and update itself automatically. So what we're going to do is we're going to tie Sketch with Framer and start changing these colors or things and see how our prototype is going to start updating itself automatically, right? So that's the goal. So let's take a look if we can do that. This is the Framer.js file. And this is where it's running right now. And if you actually take a look at the interface itself, let's move this real quick. And you probably can't see anything. I'll make it bigger. Okay. And this is the browser window where we actually see the prototype. So right now there's nothing because I just defined an app here, some default values for the actionable areas. The color is going to be lime and the opacity is going to be 0.3. You're going to see where we use this just simple variables. And then the default animation, and we just started with the background layer right now. So what you see here is a background layer, nothing more. But what I'd like to do is add the first loading screen. And for that, we just simply create a layer. So this is what I do. I save the file. So what happened here is that the coffee script got regenerated and got refreshed. And because we have something called library load, the browser automatically updated itself. Okay. And this image itself, loading.png, is the same name as this one right here. Okay, this guy. So this gets exported to a PNG file, and we just use the PNG there. Good. Okay. So from that point on, and so in Framer.js, all layers have indexes. Basically, you set up the index. It's like a Photoshop layer, and they define which layer is visible at that point. So what we'd like to set up here is we'd like to set up this loading layers index to 1000. And then let's do a trick here to disappear this after 1 second. Okay. The reason I want to disappear this is because I want the next layer to show up automatically. I don't want to click on it. And the way to do that is using this utils thing. That's again a Framer.js. It's documented. It's documented very well. If you go into the docs here and search for utils, they will tell you basically what's available here for you on the left. By the way, if you have any questions so far, I don't want to get too technical, but I want to go through the code just to show you what's possible, because I kind of realize that there's a lot of designers, maybe UX people, you may not be developers, and that's okay. That's okay, because what we do is we pair a developer and a UX person side by side. What we start calling DevOps, DevUX. I mean, people are doing DevOps for years, right? I mean, why? Because the ops guys were in a different world and the dev guys were in a different world. And the same thing is happening with developers and UX people. Danny was talking about, if somebody asked a really good question, people fall in love with their wireframes or mockups, and it's really hard to change because it's not part of the iterative agile process. They deliver something, they work for 2 years, then they dump it in front of a developer and say, here, it should be easy now. Just do it, just develop it. It doesn't work like that. So it works both ways. UX feeds development, development feeds UX. So we as UX people sometimes maybe need to remind ourselves or our bosses or clients that it's not a done deal until the development, until it's in production, it's not a done deal. It should be open for negotiation. Okay, the color should be able to change. The button should be able to change. Anything and everything should be able to change. So when you have that negotiation back and forth, a tool set like what I'm doing right now is highly valuable because it can change both in real time, maybe in front of a client, which we do. Okay, so going back to our screen. So let's just add a signing layer real quick. I prepare this and just reload the entire thing. So we just, oh, you get this nice little clickable thing. Right now, nothing is clickable. But we're going to start defining clickable areas. So let's define the let's put it behind, so the animation still continues and we can see the transition. Right. That's why we use indexes. Right. Okay. So now let's define our sign-in button real quick. Okay. So you will see that this turned a little lime here, right? and its opacity is 0.3. This is because we defined it right here, lime and 0.3. We can change this to yellow. And you will see how fast this back and forth is. It's just amazing. You know, you can change a lot of things, and you can see instant results. Right now, it's not clickable because we haven't defined an action. The JavaScript developers or any other developers will know that events is what triggers different actions. So we need to create an event. So let's create a quick event for this button. And what we're gonna have the button do is, it should bring an accounts layer forward. But we don't have an accounts layer yet. And see, here's where we see how useful Framer.js is, because it gives us this very nifty JavaScript error. You can see it here in the red. But if you right-click and say inspect element, it says account layer is not defined. For a developer, this is heaven. It just told me what's wrong with my prototype. So the account layer is not defined. So let's go ahead and define our account layer. Very simple. Again, so far I'm just using layers. Okay, just save this, and boom, it's already there. As you can see, it took over because the last layer you define is put in front of every other layer. So what we need to do is we need to send it back or define an index. You can do it in two different ways. So if I click to this now, boom, it's here. But we still have an error. We still have a JavaScript error because we're missing the menu button, right? The menu button is not defined. So let's define the hamburger menu is another layer. Okay. So this turned yellow. Okay, actually, let's turn it back to lime, because I think it's more visible. And let's change the opacity a little bit. We have issues with it, but we're going to send it to back. Right now, it shows at the front. Okay. So send it back so it behaves as it's supposed to behave. Continue, and right here, right? We have no errors, no JavaScript errors. When you click on the hamburger menu, there's nothing happening yet. So we're going to define all that stuff. So this is where the power of coding prototyping comes. Basically, whatever you can do in JavaScript, you can do here with Framer. So let's say I wanted to create a custom function called toggle menu. So there's a state, and say, if the menu is open, close it. If the menu is closed, open it, right? Other tools would probably have you jump through some hoops. But here, you can just check the state and just change it and swap it. So let's do that. So I'm just going to uncomment all this and see if our hamburger menu is going to work properly this time.
So is it basically guesswork for your XY index? I mean, eventually, I'm assuming you'll get used to what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, you need to know your dimensions. And my dimensions are pretty much, when you look at my layer, 640 by 1136 is the size of this canvas right here. This one, the inside. Cool. And the outside, I'll show you a couple other things, how you can change the frame of the device that you use, which is another really cool thing. But right now, we have another JavaScript error, and that is because the menu layer is not defined. So let's go ahead and define our menu layer. Okay. So continue, and if I click on it now, you have a really, really nifty animation that toggles it to this side. And this menu layer, by the way, came from right here. So I have two versions of the menu, right? Let's say you want a demo, again, to your customer or to your boss, two separate versions of the demo. One is linear, the other one is with some icons at the top. So if you look at our prototype right now, it's using this first version. It says menu version 1. So let's go ahead and change that to menu version 2. As you can see, I don't have to refresh. I can just go back, click this, and now we have the second version. Right? And so just kind of makes our lives a lot easier. Send it back. Now, let's go into the account details now. I mean, so far it's working really fine, but we'd like to go a couple layers deeper. Account details page. Similar logic, and now I just defined a new region here. This is also applicable. Kind of the same thing I did with the paper prototype. So click on it, nothing happens because the action is not defined. So let's define the button's action. And guess what's going to happen now? It's going to throw an error, basically. Why? Because probably I haven't defined the accounts detail layer yet, which is probably coming down. So let me just uncomment that as well. So we spare ourselves from that error. Okay, save this and see what happens. And we're at the accounts detail page, right? Except that we're stuck here because there's no way we can go back yet. So let's add the back button. Very simple again. Everything is a layer, and everything has some actions. So I added the back button, but I didn't add the action. So let me add the action as well, so that it knows how to go back to the accounts main page. Right? From the accounts main page, we went to the accounts detail page. And now if I hit the back button, I should be able to go back to the accounts main page. So let's do that. Okay. Go to the accounts. Now the back button has the lime color. Click on it, and we're back to the accounts page. So that's pretty cool. Okay.
If you set the opacity to all those rectangles to 0, so you don't get this hinting that, hey, this is the button, you still can click on them, right?
Yes, absolutely. You just won't know that they're there. And that's what you would want to do probably when you push it to production. When you push it to your prototype production. Right? Then, sorry, I know you. Because we have a special Heroku site for our prototypes. So when we're done with a prototype, our clients could be anywhere. Some of them are in Russia, some of them are in Brazil. They'd like to be able to take a look at them. And so instead of pushing to a public cloud, we push it to Heroku, pass in the address, and this is all HTML, all JavaScript. So it runs perfectly on a mobile device as well. Oh, by the way, when you hit this on a mobile device, this frame disappears, the iPhone frame, and you only see the content fit properly.
But you have to use it on whatever size device you specify.
Yes, otherwise the fitment issues are there. Thank you. Yeah, or you can change your your sketch dimensions of your artboards, and you can still get the same result. So let's make this 0.5 again. So the reason I don't have to go and hit refresh is a tool called Live Reload. It's a little JavaScript library that watches your files, and as they change, it reloads automatically. So it just saves you back and forth. All right, cool. So now let's get a little bit more fancy, because if you can, so that loading thing is static right now, right? But you can add video, and if you use something like Adobe After Effects, it's very simple to make a video of a loading bar, and you can embed that. I didn't do that because I didn't have time, but I still wanted to embed a video layer. So Framer.js gives you that ability to embed a video layer. So right here, let's see. We add that to the accounts layer. So let's see if this video shows up on the accounts layer. Okay, so we're watching a video. Basically, you can do anything. I mean, you can progress a status bar, you can fly, whatever. This is just a video playing right now. And I just wrote this again, very quick JavaScript, which you can click on it and pause it. You can click on it and play it. Right? It's all JavaScript. You can do whatever you want with it. Cool. All right. So the other really interesting thing about Framer.js is the concept of states. Any layer can have as many states as you want it to, right? So you can minimize it, maximize it, do animations, flip it, whatever you want. So let's add some states to this video layer, and let's see what we can do with them. Okay, so I just added 2 states. And then let's add a layer which controls what we do with the states. So when I click continue, we'll have this little toggle video size thing. So let's start playing the video again. And when I click on this, if I can click on it, okay, nothing happened. Great.
Give it a click.
Yeah, okay. The click is not enabled. Thank you. So let's do it one more time. See if it works this time. Okay. So what you just saw here, this minimized state, is another state of the same layer, right? So if I click back on it, it's going to bring it back. And this little spring animation as well, right? So we can do this to any layer. And you may have seen Google with paper design does these sizes and flipping and changing and stuff like that. So it can get pretty fancy there as well. So I do have another quick. All right. So this is the entire file. This is just one file of the Framer.js coffee script. Actually gets embedded inside this HTML file. And the HTML file actually defines the frame. What kind of device do you want to see? So if you look at my Bower components here, I have all these different types. So let's make this iPhone 5C green, maybe. C green. It's pretty fancy. For 5S gold. Gold is good. Gold. Okay, that worked. So someone was asking if it's a different device format. Let's try that and break it. Next slide. So next says 5, 5. Yep. Okay, this is how it looks. Not very fancy. Still works, but you get it. You get the idea. Or iPad or. All right, I'd like to put it back to where it was before I broke it. Gold is good. And now, actually, since Movell is not a bank, I'd like to go back and maybe change my file a little bit. This is what I was telling you earlier. That Sketch gives you this ability to create these common symbols and also common styles. So we defined a symbol for the bank logo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make ing visible and make Movell invisible. Okay. So it updates itself on all screens. Pretty awesome. But then this red branding doesn't really work. Actually, you guys can't see the difference, but between the red and the orange, but on my screen it's pretty visible between the orange and the line and this red. That's not going to fly with our client. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick this layer and pick the background here. And with using the Control-C shortcut, we're going to pick a color. So we don't, let's make it blue actually. Okay. So it's a little bit more like ING bank now. All right. So let's save this and let's wait a little bit. The reason we wait is because there's so many images and it's actually exporting each image. And each image is like 2-3 megabytes. But now it's good. So, all right. So this just took down. If you have to do a demo or a prototype for a variety of clients or for a variety of, I don't know, colors, combinations, logos, whatever it is, Sketch is going to be a friend. Common symbols and textiles are going to be a friend. So consider doing that. So going back to this, forget the ING logo, maybe BB&T. Okay. So real quick, let's do the same thing because it only takes a second. Select doing it. Okay. Save it and just wait. So the entire app is branded now to BB&T, right? So and the entire prototype is clickable. Everything is defined as it is, and so you may be wondering, okay, so let's get real here. Those comments, and I removed the comments in that whole file. Let's go back to that file. We're talking a completely 200 lines of code here. So it took me. You may be wondering how much time I spent on this. 2 hours to create this file with all these layers. And we're talking about maybe 10 different screens here or 10 different actions. When this app gets real, if we wanted to prototype the entire app, we have 240 different screens. So we're talking about maybe 20, 30 hours of prototyping this, tops. 20, 30 hours of prototyping. Now, I want to also share with you our experience that creating this mobile app could run into millions of dollars, the actual thing, right? Because it's the iceberg thing, right? The mobile app itself, and then you have security, you have a bunch of other layers. So the app itself, the real deal, could be millions of dollars. But let me offer you this thought, maybe to help. Sometimes people ask for the ROI or the value proposition for prototyping. So let's say 20 hours, 30 hours of Framer and maybe 50 hours and 100 hours of Sketch, total of 150, 200 hours compared to maybe millions of dollars to get back from a mistake. In our book, is a really good value. That's what we sell to our customers and say, invest in this prototype. It's going to cost you, yes. And yes, we tell them it's a throwaway prototype. Sometimes people get confused by what throwaway prototypes and they get scared or political. We're not. We're going to throw this thing away. What's going to remain is the essence, the knowledge that we're going to gain from it. Or, we're going to extract that and put it into the real app. Okay. So, any questions so far? I have one more quick trick with the watch.
How long did you feel that it took you to get familiar with this? Like, I understand the estimated hours for one app, but...
CoffeeScript is relatively simple. Again, don't hit me. I like it because it takes away the JavaScript weirdness. So I'd say 6 months maybe. I mean, an average. It's trainable. It's not like you can't find people who know this stuff. By the way, let's go back to the documentation. I think, in my personal opinion, the Framer documentation is one of the best on the market. The learning curve is so easy to learn the layers, the events, whatever you need to do, it's all here. Print hello, output hello. I mean, what can be simpler than this? This is CoffeeScript. I don't know a simpler way to print log statements. Layer, here's how you define a layer. And you can include HTML in layers and do all sorts of other things. Other questions before I move on to the next one? All right. So yeah.
I have a question. If it's for, say, UX, specifically for UX, is this a person being able to pick up CoffeeScript having no knowledge of JavaScript, or just being able to pick this up and use frameworks out?
A knowledge of JavaScript would be helpful. I'm not going to lie to you. But, I mean, JavaScript frameworks right now are just everywhere. So, again, what I'm interested in as a company owner, but also as a team lead sometimes in situations, is this cross-pollination in my employees and in teams. So I feel a developer and a UX person sitting side by side, creating something like this is a great combination. It's the greatest value on earth. Seriously. Do this. Don't get attached. Don't fall in love with your prototypes. They're going to change. And the key thing is train your customer to understand that. Because we've had customers who got attached to the prototypes, not prototypes, but the mock-ups so badly that when development started and reality started hitting, they just didn't want to let go. They just wanted the same wizard. And we just discovered that the backend systems were not able to support that wizard flow. We needed to change the wizard flow. They were just so emotionally attached. So there's a little bit of a customer training issue there. Okay. So if you have more questions, please hold on just for another quick second before I show you this. All right, so let's reload it. So we start with a paper prototype. Okay, it was cool. 10 minutes, and you impressed Jim. He's my boss. And then we did the sketch and everything. He's even more impressed. He's ready to give me the promotion. Dinner. Okay. And now you want to go the extra mile. You want to just impress him even further and bring the Apple Watch. 10 or 15 banks are already doing mobile banking on Apple Watch, right? It's amazing in the US. well, so this tool, Framer Studio, is something they sell for $79. It's just a text editor. That's it. But it's a little bit of more customized text editor because it does everything that I showed you real time, and you can see the results right here. And it's clickable, right? All these animations, everything is built in Framer. Okay, so you come here and you can change everything, right? You can make this text a little bigger. And one feature I like is this snippets. Let's see, right here. So let's just add a layer. Okay, right here. This is a new layer. So someone was asking about the learning curve or how much JavaScript. Well, maybe you can start with just hacking in this tool and just add these snippets and see what happens. So random color. So if I refresh this, maybe the color will change. Okay, cool. So this was pretty good. It created the layer. This is where it started, right? So change the X to 200. Look what happened. I changed the Y to 10. Oops. Width to 100. Height to 50. Right? So every time it refreshes, obviously it's a random color. And then you can assign an action to it as well. But let's get rid of this. All right. So let's add another snippet. Maybe layer with states. Okay. Here's a dummy layer with states. Click on it. Click on it. Click on it. These are all states of this layer. Right? Here are the states. 1, 2, X and Y. It's pretty simple, right? And I can add another state, 3. And let's just say Y. Sorry. Y 30. And 1, 2, and let's circulate to 3 as well. Cool. Okay. Save this. Let's see what happens. Okay, now it goes up too. And so I guess this is another way of, playing with it. At the end of the day, your Framer file and your Framer actions is going to be what's happening inside the watch. The watch image itself is a background, right? And you can just, again, install JavaScript, HTML image files, push this onto the cloud or Heroku, whatever your preferred server is, and demo it to your boss and get that promotion. Okay, and that's pretty much all the demos that I have. I also have slides, but I'm going to spare you that. Except this one, because I had. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Another question from that. What we have. Yeah.
So are there like seed projects that people could look at for Framer, or like anything that you've done that like maybe is out in the wild, like this is a good starting point for a iOS app or for a watch app?
Yes. Okay. So great question. Let's go back to this guy. This is a heavily modified project, which I gathered from 6 different GitHubs and created this Gulp file. So the entire magic happens inside the Gulp file. And I realize not many people are familiar, that's fine. And then there's something called Bower. Inside Bower, there's this Framer templates project that I'm bringing. So Framer templates, if you look it up, it's a GitHub project and it has all these iPhone templates and everything. So you can actually make all this available, except it's open source available, you can make this yourself. I modified my Gulp file to watch for the coffee, the sketch, and the HTML. And when there's a change in the sketch file, look what happens. It runs this tool called the sketch tool, which is a command line version of sketch. So it regenerates those images automatically, right? But everything is available. Other than that, it's just NPM. So if you look at the package JSON, It's just these couple of packages. Very, very simple project. No unit tests, no functional tests, no nothing at this point. Yes.
So with Sketch, do you use like Illustrator? What do you use to create your vector images to import them in? Do you
All Sketch.
It's all
Inside
Sketch.
Sketch. Yeah, I love the Sketch vector graphic tools, the Bezier curves, everything is inside Sketch. But one thing we're experimenting right now is After Effects videos for variations of, various flying things or progress bars. And After Effects, if you experiment with that, has a feature to export the video with alpha channel. So it's completely transparent and you can lay it over any background and it's going to flip without the background. Yeah, the video guy is shaking his head. Waiting for it.
Until it can be done in CSS completely.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, After Effects is just amazing though. I mean, that's probably one of the few Adobe tools. Sorry. Didn't mean to start another religious debate. Yes.
So when you create those images and like the layers in Sketch, can you export them, let's say if you're doing IOX into Xcode without having to redo your interface, just export those files?
Yes, you can. And actually, thank you for reminding me because I do have another useful slide, another joke slide. I wanted to show you this landscape of tools that are available for various prototyping. We kind of touched on the code side with, you can do it in Xcode, obviously, with clicking. So that's pretty good. And there's Azure, Flinto. People have used Keynote, PowerPoint, InVision, Pop. We use Pop. This is called Origami. We haven't used it, but I hear great things about it. And After Effects, obviously, is another one. All right, so and I have a list of all these tools, but I wanted to show you real quick this picture.
If you give me the on the slide share, we'll post them and link them on the group.
Okay. And okay, I'll post it. I'll send you the copy of this. And here there are links to the actual tools, the website. They're all listed. But real quick, I wanted to make this quick chart because, again, going back to the value proposition, what happens is in our world, this is the life cycle of a prototype. It goes from an idea, goes to a sketch, just on paper. This is maybe a sketch. So a paper prototype goes to a wireframe mockup, clickable prototype, and a mock app. So the mock app is everything that Xcode app does with mock data, no backend, right? This is how it progresses. So the clarity of requirements goes up significantly every time you create one of these in this life cycle. And also the amount of rework that's required goes down. That's our experience. And so in 2 projects, for a large project, we calculated and saved $230,000. $230,000 just because we did prototypes, because of the emphasis on requirements clarification and the unified vision. On a different, smaller project, because the development was done offshore in Russia, actually, sending them a clickable prototype was much easier and cut down the back and forth. And that saved us $25,000. So when people look at prototyping as an investment, I'd like to show them this. And I'd like to show them these examples as well, so that they have an idea. The cost of prototyping in the whole big picture of things is probably less than 2% of the entire project cost in our estimation. Again, consider the backend, consider the testing, infrastructure, everything that makes up a good app. Not only mobile, but all apps in general. Prototyping cost is probably about 2% of that. But the amount of clarification, the amount of the reduction of rework is just amazing. Okay. Any other questions?
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Some quick announcements, and then we will wrap up. First of all, next month, we are doing a panel. We've done a few panels. They're always fun. This one isn't quite worked out yet. We're still working out the details. It's going to be about women in UX. Jen Bergson Romano, formerly of UX DC, is now in Facebook research, but she's coming back here to moderate that panel. So that's going to be really cool. We're working out the whole panel. More details to come. So I haven't announced it yet, but it's on the site if you want to sign up for it. And then in June is our 3-year birthday of doing this every month, which is pretty cool. And also Seismic is going to be here talking about visual design best practices in mobile advertising. So kind of cool, something a little different. And let's see, there's a whole bunch of events coming up. So if you go to the NoVA UX site, in the message boards, I keep an event calendar going there. This weekend there is an Internet of Things hackathon in Rockville, Maryland. On April 20th, a prototyping for non-tech founders. It's a free webinar you can check out. On the 21st is a game developer symposium in DC. That sounds fun. On the 28th, there's a new group called UX DC. So if you're in the city a lot, they're kicking off the brand new meetup group. They wanted to give a quick shout out. And then finally on May 13th through the 15th, coaching agile teams workshop. So if you're doing the agile thing, that could be a really interesting workshop. All the details for all those events are on the website, so check it out there. Let's do, so first of all, so AdThis, where I work, provides this space every month. They also provide all the beverages, and then we get some kind of soul to provide the food. So as always, a big thank you to AdThis. Jake is our intrepid recruiter. So you want to say a little bit about this?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. A lot of you already have heard this from me before, but for those of you not familiar with us, or more familiar with us than you realize, our social media sharing tools and tools on web pages extend across 96 to 98% of the internet, according to ComScore, on any given week. What that allows us to do is we process a massive amount of data, and we've become very useful for as a content engagement platform. We do really exciting stuff, and we're looking for very ambitious, very excited professionals right now across the stack. Front-end folks, back-end folks. Jim mentioned, I believe, a couple positions that he has available on his team, and creative director and product designer right now. So if you're interested in any of those, my card's over there. Talk to me or Jim, and we'd be happy to chat with you about it.
Awesome. Nice, Jake. You want to stick around and grab some names out of the box?
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's give away some books.
Ricardo Abella.
Nice. That's like totally just threw his name in too. That's a nice last minute save. There you go. We need 4 more.
4 more. All right, here we go. I'm gonna have 5 minutes left. Sarah Donovan.
There you go. 1, 4.
Marsalis.
All right. Awesome. 2 more.
AJ Siegel.
And last but not least.
I had a little drama in this one. Figure it out. Veni Kunchak. Woo! I say
it. Enjoy it. Okay, fantastic. So let's see. And okay, finally, that's about it for this month. If you have any feedback, if you have any ideas, if you'd like to be standing up here presenting, would like to sponsor one of these events, my cards and Jake's cards are the little orange square business cards over there on the counter. I'd love to hear from you if you have feedback, ideas, anything you guys have to say. I'd love to hear it. And other than that, have a great month, and we'll be back next month with another meetup. Thank you all for coming this evening. Thank you. Oh yeah, sure. Quick announcement.
I'm Matt. I'm working with a small team in Arlington on a mobile game for iPhone. Right now, our goal is in 10 weeks to release this game out to the App Store, and then 6 weeks to Kickstarter. We're looking for some help. Right now, we have an Elance UI UX artist, but we need that communication help, like between a lead artist, basically, for the game. So if anybody's interested, I'll be in the back. I'll tell you more about the project, and hopefully grab your email. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for those black folding chairs that you can pick up and follow me.
Yeah.